There's something seriously messed up about how tipped workers get paid in America. You would think that it would at least be making the guaranteed federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, right? Well, you would be wrong. Because of this so-called tip credit loophole, employers can pay their workers as little as $2.13 per hour in direct wages. The rationale? Customer tips should cover the remaining $5.12 to reach the full minimum wage. The tip credit allows businesses to skirt paying tipped workers their full wages. In Maryland, for example, businesses can avoid paying up to $11.37 per hour. This is an outrageous wage subsidy taken straight out of servers and bartenders' pockets. This two-tiered system forces tip staff to depend largely on unpredictable tips for their livelihood. We should also mention that the majority of tipped workers are low-income women that are often subject to sexual harassment. This is an exploitative setup that makes workers incredibly vulnerable to wage theft and unstable income. One slow shift and they could easily get stifled below the minimum wage. If they actually want to get that money back, they need to go up to their boss and tell them how much they're owed. And guess who's doing that every single day? Probably no one. Businesses love this because they can avoid paying the full minimum wage by shifting that cost onto customers rather than just paying the minimum wage. Codifying that kind of level of insecurity and inequity into federal law does not exist in peer countries and certainly should not exist in the richest country in the world. Workers deserve better than institutionalized poverty wages.